Do you ever feel like you need nourishment for your body and your mind?
I do. What do you recommend?
Well, serving up meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and gravy seems to help every little thing. Hi, I'm Debbie.
And I'm Courtney.
Welcome to the home of Almost Vegan Cooking School. Okay, a few weeks ago, I asked some of our students if they could share some of their family favorites with us, something that they wouldn't hesitate to make during the week, nothing too complicated. And Judy, a dear friend of the cooking school and also a kitchen angel, she lives right here in Englewood, Colorado, she shared her vegan meatloaf recipe with us.
Debbie, is this the recipe with the red gravy that we like so much?
Yes, this has red gravy that is so delicious, you're gonna wanna pour it over everything.
So while your oven is preheating to 350 degrees for your meatloaf, you're going to be prepping your potatoes. So today we're using a combination of white potatoes and sweet potatoes, and that'll give us some extra color and nutrition, but really you can use any combination you like. And as you can see, we're using a pretty large chop for our potatoes. We're going to boil them for about 20 minutes until they're pork tender, and then just let them sit in the hot water until we're ready to mash them. And that'll ensure that the whole meal comes together hot at the same time.
The foundation of our meatloaf will be chickpeas today. So basically, I'm just going to break up the chickpeas in the food processor. If you don't own a food processor, you can certainly do this by hand. And then we've got all those traditional ingredients of carrot, celery, and onion. Now we could throw everything into the food processor, but over the years I have found that I really like chopping vegetables. And it's so nice when you slice into the meatloaf and you can see those chunks of carrots and celery. And not only that, you have a beautiful texture in the food. So now we're ready to put all of our ingredients together for our meatloaf. And there's actually 12 ingredients, which may sound a little overwhelming, but as you'll see, most of these are common ingredients that you will already have in your pantry.
So here are our chickpeas. We took them out of the food processor. You can see the consistency here. And we're going to start by adding our hand-chopped vegetables. So we have our celery, carrots, and onion, and we're going to add a little bit of minced garlic as well. And our next ingredient after our vegetables is going to be the ground flax.
Okay, ground flax may be something that isn't in your pantry. It could be a new ingredient for some of you. And ground flax is really the flaxseed ground. Sounds kind of simple, but we use this so often in vegan baking and cooking, and the reason why is it's a great replacement for an egg. And not only that, it's a healthy replacement. It is one of Dr. Michael Greger's top 12 recommendations for the day, and the reason why is because it is loaded with omega-3.
So we're going to add some breadcrumbs next to finish off our dry ingredients. And then we're going to finish off by adding our wet ingredients and our seasonings.
So, for your plant-based milk, make sure that it is unsweetened and unflavored. We don't want any vanilla mixed in with our meatloaf. This one I really want you to pay attention to is the can of tomato paste. You only need one. 2 tablespoons are going to go into your meatloaf, and the rest of the can save for our red gravy coming up in just a minute. And you can even find Worcestershire sauce vegan. I found this at Sprouts. We've got soy sauce, a little bit of dried Italian herbs, just a little blend, a pinch of pepper. And I wanted to mention a little bit about our breadcrumbs. Now, my mother used to say you can make meatloaf with anything. If you don't have panko breadcrumbs, just use stale bread. Any kind of breadcrumbs. You can use oatmeal flakes, even matzo meal if you have that in your pantry. And finally, if you have a little bit of liquid smoke in the pantry, add about a teaspoon. It's an optional ingredient. Mix it all together and we're gonna pop it into the oven in just a few minutes. All right, so I've patted all of these ingredients together into my loaf. And I just want to point out that depending on what part of the country or the world that you live, whether it's hot or dry, sometimes this consistency could be a little different. Well, today I noticed things were a little dry. So how I corrected that is I added a little bit of plant milk and about a teaspoon of flaxseed, and let that sit, and I added that as another binding agent. I put in a little bit more soy sauce and a little bit of tomato paste. And then I got it just right. Now, if you have the opposite problem and your meatloaf seems like it's too moist, well then you'll add a little bit more breadcrumbs or oatmeal flakes to get it just right. And then from that point, I'm gonna bring this out onto a baking sheet that I have covered with parchment paper, and that way I can eliminate having to oil the pan. And I'm going to bring this all together and form the loaf. Okay, now the meatloaf is ready. I'm going to put it in an oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes.
Okay, so while the meatloaf is cooking, we're going to prepare our favorite red gravy. And we're going to start with our tomato paste. If you remember, we used a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons went into our meatloaf, and the rest is going to go into our gravy. And we're going to add a 1/4 cup each of apple cider vinegar, soy sauce, and maple syrup, and 2 teaspoons of paprika. So here's our gravy, and it smells delicious. As you can see, I've used a whisk just to get it nice and smooth. And we're going to transfer half of our gravy into a serving bowl, and the other half we're going to use to glaze our meatloaf. So after 20 minutes of cooking, we're going to take the meatloaf out, glaze it with the gravy, and pop it back in the oven for another 10 minutes.
We just took the meatloaf out of the oven, and I'm going to glaze it, and basically that is pouring this sauce right over the top. And back in the oven for 10 more minutes. Okay, dinner's almost ready. We've taken out the meatloaf. I want it to sit for 10 minutes to firm up before we slice into it.
So while that's resting, we've whipped up our mashed potatoes using some unsweetened almond milk. And if you'd like to see our process for making the mashed potatoes, you can check one of our previous videos, our double stuffed, twice baked veggie potatoes. So check that out for our process. This time around, we didn't season these mashed potatoes because our gravy is going to add so much flavor.
Wow, doesn't this look nourishing?
This is real comfort food.
Start serving it up.
That looks great.
So well.
Don't forget the gravy.
We hope you enjoyed our time together.
And if you like cooking with plants, be sure to visit almostvegancookingschool.com and enroll in our online cooking course.
It's all in an effort to heal our bodies, heal each other, and heal our world. One recipe at a time.